Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of American Horror Stories Season 2, Episode 6, Facelift. What a weird episode this was. I got a lot of, Hannibal vibes with all the, the pig snout. This is just like a Mason Verger episode to me. Also, I miss Hannibal a lot.
I was starting to think that it was gonna go in a different Hannibal way by the end of it. I was like, okay, something's obviously not right. She's not gonna come out of this at the end looking gorgeous and everything is a-okay. This is American Horror Stories, so something was gonna go sideways, and it did.
Yeah. There's a lot that we could say about this very, very weird episode, but before we get into it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are here talking through everything on American Horror Stories leading into American Horror Story, which for some weird reason at the time of this recording, FX has still not announced a premiere date or an official premise. I don't know what's going on.
No, I don't know what's going on. Maybe they're just trying to hype up everybody being like, what is it? What could it be? But also follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. Okay, let's just start with the casting of this.
Yeah.
And Judith Light. Amazing. It was so good to see her again. I haven't seen her in anything in a while. But she, oh my goodness, she killed this episode. This whole episode was really saved by her and her performance. She's a treasure. It was so cool to see her on this.
Would you say that she was the boss? Okay, I'm gonna see myself out.
Okay, yeah, you can see yourself out. Okay, so listen, here's the premise of this is that it's something that I think a lot of us out there can relate to. I mean, I started watching this episode, I was like, oh, okay, I can relate to this as well. I'm not that far off from 50. I live in Southern California where everybody gorgeous out here. And aging is something that they're just like, no. Mm-hmm. You can never age, which is just like, get out of here. Like, everybody's gonna age and it's the way that it's gonna go. And if you don't like it, bye. But a lot of people out there, men and women, are in a situation where they start to age and they start to sort of miss their youth or feel like there's comparisons to youth. This is a very common theme that is in life. So to have an episode about this as well that opens up with this character taking her own pee and putting it on her face because people are willing to do a lot to keep their youth. I was just like, oh, wow, they are setting the stage for something really big here. And this is where it gets tricky for me because I had heard that Judith Light was going to be on this. And then I saw her on this and I was like, oh, yeah, this casting is so good. And then as I watched more of it, where it was like, here's this woman who's, a bit older, is worried about losing her youth, is feeling not as good about herself anymore. And she sort of meets this mystical plastic surgeon that's going to make everything all better. And I was just like, Judith Light looks good. She's 73 years old. If I could look even half as good as Judith Light looks at 73 years old, I feel like I'd be winning. So with the casting, I was like, Judith Light, yes. And then I was like, with this story where they ended up the big reveal, oh, they turned her into this, pig and they're the beautiful people. I was like, you guys casted a beautiful person because this show wasn't about just youth. I mean, we saw the older neighbor that was there who was a good-looking guy. There was people of all ages that were really good-looking, including Judith Light.
I think that's probably the irony in all of it, in a way, where here is somebody who is, one of the beautiful people in her own way already, and yet she's still not satisfied with that. She still wants something more, and I think it's obviously some real social commentary of the paranoia that all of us tend to have over our beauty, our appearance, our presentation. I think it's a little bit of an interesting subtext in here too, that we've seen that this character Virginia is really, struggling financially in some ways as well, and she's learning more and more about all these debts that are accumulating. And so I think it's probably also playing into her mind of okay, I don't really have money. All this presentation of this life that I have is kind of a lie. If I can't have any of this, then I need to have my beauty. Then I need to have this other thing, and I will stop at nothing, including going into more debt, by the way, to ensure that I get this.
Yeah, that was sort of the big thing for her, where she was having this talk with her stepdaughter, where her stepdaughter's like, yeah, I'm gonna, go to school and get an education, take care of myself. And, Virginia was like, nah, marry rich. Like, that's the way that it works, sort of thing. But then as she learns that she's not as wealthy as she thinks she is, it does start to play back on her again, where she's like, okay, then, do I need to sort of find a way to become more beautiful, or, it's sort of just this weird dysmorphia of herself, where she looks in the mirror and she doesn't see that she's actually quite good looking, and that she can go and meet people, and that it's more of just her own self-confidence and these unreasonable beauty standards that are out there that nobody can reach.
I think the setup and the themes of this episode, I think, are really strong. It's really weird in a way that, Manny Koto wrote this episode. He also wrote Drive. Like, here's the question that I have for Mr. Koto. Sometimes does the execution not match the idea? Was the Drive idea really good on paper? And it just, I don't know. But you know what? Maybe he was channeling all of his own energy into this episode instead. Because this one, the idea of it really worked, and here is the big but that I have here, though, and this is why I think this is sort of like in the middle of my season 2 episodes here. It's not my favorite. It's definitely not the worst. The last 10 minutes of this just felt like extremely rushed. Like, it was just like, oh, here's the big twist. All of a sudden, we're going to play now into the you're being hunted, and we're just going to, like, speed through everything that's going on here with Dr. Pearl and all these, like, cult people as fast as humanly possible. It's like, why was this episode only 40 minutes again? You guys have had some that are, like, 49, 45. Why is this so short?
Yeah, they rush the ending, and sort of the twist about the stepdaughter legit came out of nowhere for me. There was no real build up to this. She did not care about really what she looked like. She was just, I'm going to school. I'm interested in more education. I'd like to take care of myself. There really wasn't anything there. And there was this really pretty solid relationship between her and her stepmother, which I always like to see. If you've been on this channel for a while, you know how much I love my stepmother. She is a 10 out of 10. And I love seeing relationships that, don't portray those relationships as like, oh, they're bad. The stepmother treats the stepkid like, dirt or whatever. And that wasn't the case here. Yeah, she said that one thing, but she was also in a lot of pain. She didn't mean it, and I don't think she did. And it was just kind of like when we got to this twist where it was like, oh, you're one of the beautiful people. It's just like, well, there was no build up to this. She didn't care.
Yeah.
She never mentioned it. It was never a thing that she was obsessed with. She didn't really lean into it at all. No. It was something that her stepmother was going through, and she was, there for her the best that she could. And I was kind of like, where did this come from?
It felt like they just, I've said this about some other episodes this season, it felt like they just needed to find a way to end it and end it fast, that they were just like, let's come up with this so that the stepdaughter can eventually become one of the beautiful people, and then we're going to show her being a part of this world, which I also don't buy. They just like completely just like stabbed up her stepmother, like, all this right in front of her, and then she's like, walking down the road here. Okay, and this is where I'm going to get into some trouble, but you know what? I'm saying it anyway. She's walking down the road here with Logan Paul. Like, since when is Logan Paul one of the beautiful people? That dude, I'm sorry, that dude looked just like Logan Paul. I'm not going to lie.
Some similarities there, where then he showed his tattoo, and I was like, oh, you're one of the beautiful people? Okay, that's fine. Some people will find him attractive. He's not my cup of tea. No. I'm not into that. But, he's also much younger than me. I'm almost 50 years old. Like, I wasn't going to look at him and be like, oh,
Is he going to take her to some boxing matches featuring his brother after the fact here? Like, I have so many weird questions about this ending.
Yeah, I feel like, for me, a better ending, because she did have such a close relationship with her stepmother. Now this strange doctor that she's been fighting against, all of a sudden is like, you're one of us, you're one of us. That there wouldn't be a moment where she just sacrificed herself to kill this doctor to then sort of stop the cycle of everything, to be like, you know what, my stepmother has been here for me through a lot of stuff, and now I'm going to be here for her. Even though she has died, she will not have died for nothing. And then seeing her later, oh, I'm one of the beautiful people, I'm in school, you know, none of it matters. I was just kind of like, where was that? Where was it in the writing?
It was nowhere in the writing. That is the problem with the ending. It is this show loves to do these things like this, where, you know, not everybody gets, like, you know, the picture perfect ending, and I understand that, but it's also like they forget about sort of the intentions of their own characters a lot of the time, and they just sort of like, okay, let's just go with this plot regardless of whether or not it actually makes sense for X, Y, or Z character to do this, and I just don't know.
It's the supporting characters that this writer is having difficulty with, because this happened in Drive too. And I'm not saying that like Drive was really savable or anything like that, but the husband just kind of came out of nowhere at the end and was just like, I'm here ready to kill too. And it was like, okay, well, where's the build up to that? We don't know anything about this guy. Yeah. Why is he in this spot where he's willing to help bury bodies and kill people? You could have given us just a tiny bit so that we understand where this character is coming from. And now we have this stepdaughter, and she's in the same spot where all we've really seen from her is that she cares about her stepmother a lot. She's, you know, willing to help her through this recovery process, and she wants to go to school. And she, like, you know, threw a fit when she was a teenager and trashed her room. I was just like, okay, well, then that part of it that you wanted this ending to stick wasn't there.
I give a lot of credit for coming up with a really interesting idea, and
it was an interesting idea.
Like, I kind of thought we were going into this episode with sort of something not all that different, actually, from Bloody Mary, where it was going to be like, I will transform you, but there's going to be this punishment, and she was going to be aware of it, and it was going to be, you know, I don't know, this sort of Dr. Faustus dilemma of what am I willing to give up for this thing that I want. But instead, they went in this other direction, which I was happy with until you guys rushed it. And then it was just sort of like, all right.
Yeah, it was a really interesting sort of social commentary on getting older, you know, being a woman and getting older, and what the unreasonable beauty standards are, and what you're willing to do to be able to hold on to the youth that no one can hold on to, because aging is part of life. It is just the way that it's going to roll, and we all going to be there together, and it's going to be okay. But that we all end up in these situations, or most of us, where, you know, as your face is changing, your body's changing, and you're looking in the mirror, that even if you still look good, you still look like Judith Light, that you're still looking in the mirror being like, I could change this about myself. Where it's just like, you Judith Light, you don't need to do any of this. You look good.
Well, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You know, we have a couple more episodes of Horror Stories to go. We'll see exactly how things wrap up there. And then we got Horror Story Season 11. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you here next time.